So at the end of the day, characters are what your audience is going to walk away with. Like, most of the time the theme, it sticks with the person for like a day or so, but then after that, like, they'll be like, oh, do you remember this character doing this really cool thing? And you can kind of tell how attached a person is to a character in that, like, you ask any person this, what is Harry Potter about? Like, they're either gonna answer it one of two ways. Harry Potter is about magic. They haven't read they haven't seen the movies, or they're just not attached to it. Or if they say something like, oh, Harry Potter is about a guy who, like, most of the time they're not gonna give you an answer being like, oh, Harry Potter, he's an orphan, he does magic, he got famous, he's in this new world, there's Dumbledore, there's whatever. Shut up, bro. People who are closer to the story are gonna say, like, it's about a guy who does X, Y, and Z. Like, that could be like the theme or like the gimmick of the world that they're in. So Harry Potter magic, the magic school. I know it's not exclusive to Harry Potter, but whatever, I'm using it as an example. And like, understanding that audiences attached to a character, like, it's beneficial for you to know the ins and outs. Dog, there's a motorcycle outside. Anyways, it's beneficial for you to know the ins and outs of your character, because better characters lead to better stories. And like, with those, knowing the ins and outs of your character is going to be extremely beneficial, because being able to create better characters leads to a better story and then better overall reception from an audience. So it's like, you're going to get the respect of people, like your peers and whatnot, if you like have this incredible character written down. So a few ways we can get a more complex character is by following a couple guidelines. Number one, I'd start with a ghost. A character's ghost is kind of like that like traumatic event in their past, or like this major event from their past that like informs their like current story mindset, like the present day mindset that they're in at the start of the story. Like, this ghost, this event from their past informs that. So for example, Sasuke from Naruto, when we first meet him, he is cold. He's cold to Naruto, he's cold to Sakura, his fighting stance, whack, his shoes, whack. Anyways, so he's extremely cold to everyone because of this event from his past. Like, his family was murdered, and like, he's on a mission to get revenge, or to avenge them. So yeah, writing a ghost, incredible. Go with that. Number two, recognizing that titles are not laws. So basically, if I'm writing a character that is a Christian, however, she still swears, she still sins, she still gets angry, she still does all this unholy stuff, because titles, not everybody is 100% on their titles, and like, that's real, that's human. I don't mean to sound like one of those like artsy fartsy people. My current understanding of titles and the way that they should be used is that they should be able to enhance a character, be like beneficial to them in the situations that they face in your stories. So like, example, Walter White from Breaking Bad, like, he's a chemistry teacher. He a lot of the times uses let's wait a second, I got this. Hey kids, you wanna do some science? Like, that's kind of how Walter White does it. No, I'm joking. But he uses science to his advantage in that, like, that's how he solves most of his equations, most of his problems. Bro, was that Freudian? Is that what you call that? Like, so that's how I'd recommend using a title of a character, using it to enhance him. Continuing on this idea of titles with Walter White, like, while he does use chemistry, he's not a very good role model. So the teacher title is kind of a little bit more. Next would be understanding that your character doesn't live in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is that, like, the world is still spinning and other characters are still making decisions in that world that are overall going to affect the character. And like, how does let's say the main character, how do they react to this change in the world, to this change in dynamics done by other characters? Like, and how does that overall influence their arc, kind of complexity in the story? And then also understand that your character is alive. Like, they have a set of values, they have a set of fundamentals, and sometimes it's just kind of fun to kind of write them into a corner to see if they can like break their values, or to see if we can get them to like kind of like in a scene break their values. So for example, let's say that we have a liar, like somebody who just lies throughout all day long, and like, not that they're proud of it, but it's like a homeless person walks up to them. They're like, hey, can I get some money? They tell a little white lie. They're like, oh, sorry, I only have card on me. But let's say that the homeless person then starts to camp outside of their apartment. And then every single day, whenever they leave their apartment, whenever they go into it, the homeless person is like, hey, can I get some money? Getting like more and more not familiar, but just like popping up more and more in this person's life. And then one day, the person just turns around to the homeless person and says, you know what? I do have money. I'm just not going to give it to you. Imagine if that was like the start of a story, like, and that's an audience's first introduction to a character, like kind of like Reddit, not necessarily, I wouldn't call that a changing point, but just like a character's worst day. That's incredible. I have a video on how to write arcs for your characters. Watch that right here.